Corrie ten Boom, who many, if not all of you have heard of, was a survivor of the Holocaust, who once said, "You may never know that Jesus is all you need until Jesus is all you have." As we close today, I just want to share a bit about that statement because it's a beautiful saying and it sounds great and it's something that we put on a plaque and put on our wall somewhere. But you can't say that until you've actually learned it. You know, sometimes you hear people say things and they sound really hard or they sound really good, and then you start to wonder, well, how do they know? I think that sounds like something that somebody who's always had it easy would say. But I want us to understand the woman who said that. She was a Holocaust survivor. But those of you who know her story, and if you don't, go read the book The Hiding Place or look for the movie on Netflix. Her and her family were in the Netherlands during the Nazi occupation. And so they began hiding Jews and Gentiles that were part of, that were opposed to the Nazi occupation in their home. And they especially, Corrie ten Boom especially, was drawn to those who were mentally that were mentally disabled. Because that was another part. We often only talk about the Jews that were being killed, and that was a huge thing, and it's very important. But the Nazi regime also wanted to remove every disability from the earth. Anything that they did not call pure and righteous. So they were destroying everyone. And so Corrie ten Boom and her family were hiding Jews and Gentiles, and they were hiding the mentally disabled. When someone who was one of the Nazi sympathizers let it be known what was happening. Their home was raided and they were all arrested. Which really neat part of the story. They were hiding 6 people that were not discovered during the raid. And so while the entire Boom family was arrested and taken to concentration camps, the 6 people they were hiding all escaped into freedom. There is a cost to obedience. There is a cost to being like Jesus. She and all of her family were taken to concentration camps. Many were released from prison, but her father, her sister, and herself stayed there in the concentration camps. So this is a woman who doesn't just know what it is to have Jesus. She knew what it is to need Jesus. But again, just so that we don't believe that the story's always rosy or that the truth only comes from those who get what they want, here's this reality. Her father and her sister both died in the concentration camps. And she was released because of a clerical error. An error was made that allowed her to be released. She wasn't supposed to be. So this is a woman who had seen the darkest depths. Who had seen that sometimes obedience doesn't go the way we expect it to. That sometimes the promise doesn't come quickly. That sometimes the prayer doesn't get answered by us getting what we've been praying for. And yet in the middle of it, and in the beginning of it, and then at the end of it, she was able to say this. You will only know that Jesus is all you need when Jesus is all you have. And so here today, I don't know that any of us are in nearly as dramatic a situation as Corrie ten Boom ever found herself in, but I do know this today. Jesus is all you need, but you won't know it until you decide that Jesus will be all you have. Because that's a decision that we have to make. We have to decide, I don't want anything that isn't of Him, from Him, or for Him. I don't want anything that just pleases me temporarily. I want what He has provided for me. And if it comes from Him, here's the great part. That means it has to be for Him. Which means if I get it from Jesus, I have to turn around and give it back to Jesus. Because that's how God works. We're not just living in the gifts, we're living with the responsibility. To whom much is given, much is required. And so there's a place where we have to remember that if we really want Jesus, we have to let Him have everything else. And if we let Him have everything else, we may end up left with nothing but Jesus. But He will always be enough. Would you bow your heads with me today?